Welcome to Lilybit's Virtual Visions. This is a series of interviews that takes you on a journey through the immersive world of virtual reality. I am your host, Lilybit, virtual is Rem, but you can call me Lilybit. And I am here to guide you through the landscape where art, technology, and human imagination collide. Each episode will bring you exclusive interviews with visionary creators who are pushing the boundaries of virtual reality. My guests all share a common thread, a passion for harnessing the power of VR to shape new realities and explore the endless possibilities of VR as a platform for creative expression and innovation. So join me. Sit back and let's embark on a journey through the endless possibilities that creative artists and virtual worlds will bring to you. Subscribe today, and together we'll explore the limitless creativity of the virtual reality realm. Hi everybody, I'm here today with BritishStolas, who has agreed to give me an interview, and so we can get to know him a little more. He's a VRChat explorer, and what that means, if you don't know about VRChat, it's a social platform, it's a social game where you come in with avatars like these ones, and there's many worlds you can actually visit. It could be games, it could be just a bar where you just talk to people, it could be a nightclub, a variety of places. But also on top of the popular areas where most people go, there's also worlds created by very imaginative people. And there's some of them are really obtrusive and very strange, and some of them are absolutely beautiful and wonderful. And he does that. He goes and explores and takes photographs and puts them into social media. So it's wonderful. So I'm going to let him introduce himself, tell us a little bit more than I've already had about him. And then we're going to ask him further questions so we can talk about what he does.
So yeah, like I said, I'm BritishStolas. I do VR photography / exploring. And, as rightfully mentioned, I go to other different worlds, being it some more, darker worlds to more brighter worlds. And I go out, take pictures, post them up, and make sure that, they're all looking good and everything else. I've been out for a good couple, well, I'd say, just over a year, give or take. And, here I am. It's an honor to be here.
Yes, thank you for being here. Now, the very first question, I'd like to know, how did you get into this sort of world of virtual reality exploration in particular? And then, the idea of putting everything into a sort of social media, as a content creator, I guess. What inspired you to get started, and how did it all begin?
So I originally started up taking photography on a more sort of like social kind of end of things. So I effectively just sort of took pictures because I saw funny things or something was like happening and whatever, nothing like too professional or serious. I sort of started out on that end of things because I just thought, why not? We'll give it a try, see how it goes, and go from there. And over time, I started doing that for a little bit, and then I gained a few more followers and everything, and I started seeing some people who were taking more serious photography in, like, different worlds, and I thought, oh, okay, I can probably sort of, like, start giving it a try, give it a go, what could go wrong? And I started out with more sort of basic photography. I was taking more, like, sort of world-based kind of photos. I say world-based, not like as other people would like purely take pictures of the world and everything, just sort of more, landscape photos, more showing the world as well as me inside them. And anyway, yeah, I did that. And over time, I sort of slowly developed new skills and developed new way, like obviously trying to find new ways of how to do things. Tried to use the camera in a bit more of a creative manner and everything else, and got some tips off some people as well. And yeah, pretty much, if it weren't for all of that, I wouldn't be as to where I am today, should I say? So yes.
Tell me, what's sort of one of your most memorable, or maybe even the most captivating virtual reality worlds that you have explored? Is there something that stands out, more for you, and what makes them memorable?
To be fair, it's a bit of a difficult question to answer personally. But I'd say recently, one of my most memorable shoots will have to be one that I did in a world called Residual. And the reason why I sort of remember that one more is because it's a very nice looking world. It's a sort of like an art gallery kind of place. Have like different like 3D files, so like different forms of 3D kind of parts all over the place, like sculptures and everything else. That'd be the better word. Different kinds of sculptures. There we go. And but the ambience of it was what sort of threw me off more, because it felt really eerie and sort of, I don't know how to sort of like describe it. It just sort of gave that ambience of like a horror map without being in a horror map, if you know what I mean. And with the music as well, it's really slow, but when it gets going, it's like a really weird sort of eldritch themed kind of music. I think they had the song in the description. I can't remember what it was, and it was just like kind of looking over my shoulder, thinking like I'm being watched or something, because it just sort of felt like you weren't alone, but in that sort of really weird, like, okay, something's watching me kind of vibe, instead of like having someone with you in a kind way. And overall, the map was amazing. I really loved the map. I loved how it looked and everything else. It was really nice. It was just like the whole entire ambience and the music and everything just tied it together as like a horror map without being a horror map, and it was really cool, but at the same time kind of sketchy.
Oh wow!
But yeah.
Oh yeah. That just shows how important music is, for all kinds of media, especially with something like that. Movies are made, and sometimes if the music is wrong, it's just a complete shambles. That just shows music can actually made us help with the emotions that we're supposed to feel when we are actually looking at something. I was talking to some of my friends about that, the power of sound and music in particular. And if you think about it, like even blind people, oh no, not blind people, deaf people feel sound, even if they can't probably hear it 100% like we do. The vibrations of it, that's how powerful sound is, and it enriches our lives. Yeah, that's wonderful. But I will definitely not go there, because I get scared very easily. Oh, excellent. Now, just tell me your opinion on what do you think virtual reality technology is changing the way people consume or interact with, social media content, or, any kind of content, creative materials. What unique advantages and challenges does VR present compared to traditional media? And I'm talking about, virtual reality, for the people that don't know what VR means.
I would say the advantages that it probably has in terms of like pretty much everything being the fact of how people consume media / make it, sort of being content creators, as well as the audience for the content creators and all that kind of stuff. It's more in the terms of with VR itself, I'd say for content creators, it's interactability and not really having much in the terms of limits to do what you want. The only limits you got is what you put in, pretty much. So with some VR games, it's entirely as to what you can do whatever you want in that game. You don't really have much in terms of like any form of limited movement or any sort of limited capabilities in any way, shape, or form. It gives them that extra level of creativity to be able to do what they want to do and how they want to do it without having to worry about trying to worry about certain things happening or trying to get certain things to work with one another. I mean, obviously, you still have to do that to a degree, but it's not as bad. Whereas if you were to, let's say, try to record a game or something else, it's easier to record, yes, but obviously everyone's seeing all the first-person shooters, everyone's seeing everything else and all that kind of stuff. Whereas with VR, you see that person doing that thing, and it gives it that extra level of wow, that extra level of, oh my god, they're the ones actually doing it, like, it looks even cooler and everything else. Which gives that advantage to us where the consumers are concerned, seeing how the person's doing everything, how their actions are and all that. It's so good. Same thing goes for like in terms of where I'm at with photography and everything else. Being in VR, we're not really limited to how we can do things. With the right hardware and everything else, we could do our own poses and we could do our own things. Obviously, with the right knowledge, we could still do that and circumvent, shall I say? And we're not really limited as to what we can do. And obviously, when the consumer or our followers and everything see it, they're taking it more into the fact that that person actually managed to pull that off. This isn't just like computer generated or anything. They actually did this themselves. But obviously, where pros come to cons, and obviously with challenges nowadays, virtual reality itself, over the course of time, has slowly started to gain more and more, sort of became more and more noted, shall we say, like people are starting to notice it more, especially over certain periods of time, when we weren't able to go out and do our own things. We had to sort of rely more on the terms of technology to be able to socialize and interact with one another. VR helped us get to that stage, but obviously even though there's no limits in the terms of worlds and in terms of game, in the terms of other things, there is the terms of actual technology itself. AAA games and developers and everything can make all these wonderful and like gorgeous looking environments and games and everything else, but virtual reality can't really, I don't think it can really pull that off yet. Well, it's getting there, but it can't really pull it off yet. So we might be able to interact more, but it comes at the expense of graphical fidelity and everything else, shall I say. Unless we, the users in certain games, have to do that ourselves. Is what I would say.
Yeah, that's I can see your point is true, because I guess we are in a world particularly like VRChat, for example, it's not a one player game, so that's why the graphics are a little bit more. You need to kind of compromise a little bit on that because there's several people playing with you, and to be able to do that, the compromise is that maybe the graphics aren't as sharp or as intricate as some of those really, really good player games. And I'm not a gamer at all, but I have heard, that they are very, very good. They're almost lifelike, pretty close to it. In a sort of, not lifelike, but, they're very realistic, but with a very sort of artistic sort of filter through them, which makes them kind of wonderful, a bit of a fantasy world in a way. Yeah. share with us a particularly challenging or immersive experience that you've had while exploring virtual reality? I mean, you kind of touched on that already, but what did impact you the most? How do you believe that it might affect others who experience it? So, like, for example, if you were to get someone who's just started playing VR, you've got this new headset, and they arrive here today, and they say, Stolas, take us to a map. Take me to the best, nicest world you've ever been. How do you think, where would you take them, and how do you think they would react?
There are probably quite a few worlds I'd probably take someone to, um, if they, if I could, considering limitations and everything else. I mean, because a few world, how can I word it? It's one of the fact that obviously different experience. Well, obviously each person takes a different experience differently. Obviously, there are many worlds I've been to. Just like I think one of them was just like effectively just pretty much a field, and the whole thing was pretty much like a yellow golden because of the sun that was just coming down on it. I think it was made from a person called Von, if I remember correctly. The whole entire of it was just absolutely gorgeous. I know that'll be one that I've taken to. Maybe to give them the experience of obviously like saying, this is what we can come up with, this is what we can do. As a player base ourselves, just as a whole, with the right time and sort of knowledge, shall I say. We can come up with these things. Another one, like I said earlier, Residual would be another one I go to for how its ambience is. Maybe take them to some social-based worlds to effectively get to know other people. Stuff like a Midnight Rooftop being a lot more calmer, shall I say, as compared to other worlds. And yeah, and just effectively just take them anywhere and everywhere, to show like different sort of sides of how things work, some bad, some good, and everything else. And just sort of give them like a whole feel, because at the end of the day, our experiences differ differently, shall we say. That makes sense somehow. Each experience is different. It's a bit hard to explain, but once you sort of go to different worlds, you see one world that looks looks okay, it's not really giving that sort of immersive feeling, but you kind of appreciate it, and then you go to somewhere that just looks out of this world and looks way too realistic for what it is. I know there was a world that I used to go. I can't remember the name of it, but there was a world that I went to only once. It was like a gigabyte big, and it looked like it was straight out of it was straight out of a game, like one of our most latest games. Like the whole entire environment was just like, what the hell? Like it was so much detail put into it. It lagged me the hell out. I'm not gonna say it didn't, but with the amount of detail that was in there, if I was able to run it properly, it would have been absolutely amazing. And yeah, to be fair, I would just take them anywhere and everywhere and just show them all different corners and everything. Yeah, I'll take them to a couple of worlds I've taken pictures in, because obviously the world I usually go to are more based for what I tend to do, and I know that they look really good. But obviously, taking them to different corners will give them that proper experience. Obviously, this does come to the challenges of, like I said, VRC specifically with different world sizes and everything else, and obviously with different people prefer different things, and obviously in the terms of socializing as well, that's a whole different area within itself. That's just a whole thing within itself. I can't really go into much detail about that without letting loose. But and also just how everything is, it's hard to explain, but pretty much I'll just take them anywhere and everywhere, just show them everything, and just be like, look, this is what we have, this is what we can do, being at games, socializing, content creation, it's there. Show them all the beautiful corners that we can. Some being dodgy, some being good. I think that'll probably be the best way to approach it, I would say.
So basically, what you're telling me is that you will blow their minds because they'll be like overwhelmed with everything you can do. It's amazing the stuff you can do. Like you're right, and it's the word that you were talking about, where it takes ages to load. If you're just on a quest, that's impossible. You can't go. You need to have your PC connected to your headset to help with that. And then if you have a very powerful PC, then you might be able to actually stay in that world for a little longer than just a couple of minutes. Going on that subject, can you tell us about the tools, the equipment? What sort of software do you use to create and document your VR experiences, and how to create your context? Do you edit your context afterwards, or you just take it and do it on social media, like just put it the way it is? Is there any specific tips or any techniques that you want to offer any aspiring VR content creators, that might be thinking, what, I would like to get into that?
So touching on the software bit, I use in terms of like actual, like, I would say more quality of life software to make everything run easier, to make my life easier personally. I run obviously, as people probably noticed, I do run full body tracking. Obviously, hardware and everything else, I need trackers and all that. Because I run off a Quest as well, because I use a Quest 3 at the moment. I use, if I can remember correctly, it was I think a space calibrator and OVR advanced settings. They both help you to run full body tracking and everything else with a Quest. It's pretty much mandatory that you kind of get them. So that obviously, if you do look into using full body tracking, even if it's not for content creation, you just want to do it for the fun of it and everything else, it is highly recommended. In terms of other stuff that I use, more for my own, for the sake of my sanity, and for the sake of making my life a lot more easier, I use an overlay called Access, which when I take pictures and everything else, I want to make sure that they come out fine, but I also, if they come out wrong, I want to make sure that I can quickly, sort it out and, get the correct picture without having to, go through the whole process of trying to go through all of my pictures, make sure it's fine and everything. So I use Access to effectively use my laptop whilst I'm in VR to check through my pictures, check through anything I need to, and everything else. Because you don't have to use it for pictures, you can use other apps on there, like obviously Discord and YouTube if you're the person, and everything else. But obviously, I use it mostly for the sake of pictures, just so I can double check everything and make sure it's fine. And if it's not, I can quickly redo it, double check it again, and be like, okay, that came out fine, and I can move on to the next bit that I need to do. In terms of actual content creation, I edit my pictures with Lightroom. It's a really nice app. You do have to pay for it. It's a monthly pay. Everything else, you have to pay it monthly. I also very, very, very rarely use another app on my phone called PixArt, which allows me to sort of do a couple of other little bits, but I don't really use it that much. But again, that's another one you do have to pay for monthly as well to get additional features. I would recommend Lightroom. I'd say give it a nice little look-see, see if it's your thing and everything else. There are cheaper options than what is provided on there as well, in case everyone does have a look. But obviously, I do use that. In terms of tips and everything else, where content creation is concerned, because I know people obviously like to do recordings as well as take pictures and other stuff. The main one I would say, just straight up for everyone, is to get used to your camera. See how your camera works, because I know both just Questies have less features, and and PC users have all the features, if I'm correct in saying. So get used to camera, get used to how it works, see how everything, works in its own way and everything, and try different angles and all that, get a couple of test shots going. Just effectively get used to the camera. It's your best friend, and it's also your worst enemy. That's all I'm going to say to that, but just get used to it. Because there's going to be times where, there's going to be times where you look at it and think, why did it do that? And then you're going to look at it again and go, you're going to take another shot and go, that came out a lot better than I thought. So, get used to the camera is, it's the one top tip I have. Other tips being, couple of quick ones. Always check your worlds. Some bigger worlds might not be as good, probably bigger for the sake of size and not for the sake of how they actually look. Avatars is another thing as well. Being in terms of how does your avatar work and everything, and especially when it comes to worlds as well, do they both match? Does it work? If not, would you have to try something different? I know obviously trying to get different avatars, especially custom avatars, it's easier said than done. So obviously that's a whole different avenue, but it is easier said than done. However, obviously using public avatars isn't too much of an issue when it comes towards content creation. So effectively look at your world, make sure you've got a good world, make sure your avatar is fine, everything else in terms of interactability and what customization it has and all that. And my next one is be creative. Think outside the box. We all love different poses. We all love having our normal standing poses and everything else. It's one of my main favorites. But obviously, interacting with the environment in different ways, being how you pose with the environment, or being on what props you use within the environment as well, always adds an extra level of sort of creativity, shall I say. Always adds that little bit to really put the picture or your video together. And to find just find different things within the world within itself, being it different chairs or different props around and all that kind of stuff. Just in simple terms, think outside the box and get creative. That's all I'll say to that one. And I think that's all I got for that.
Thank you. All right. Now, just tell me, I'd like your opinion on what do you believe virtual reality can be used to enhance, things, for example, education, entertainment. Entertainment, I guess, that's just sort of the games that we already play. And sometimes, even cinema is starting to use kind of a virtual reality kind of environments. But in education in particular, or other aspects in our lives, can you provide examples or personal stories to illustrate these potentials? Have you come across situations where you say, well, you know what, this could be done in VR, or this has helped me do something like this because of VR? What's your opinion on that?
I would say, as a whole with virtual reality, it can be used in terms of education for where, again, like I said earlier, with its interactability being its main sort of front. I know that certain other games, I think the main one being Minecraft with its education edition and everything else, being able to teach people how certain things work, being able to use the crafting mechanics and all that kind of stuff to teach people new things about how things work. And I think having a level as to where VR is at to be able to help teach others, being it as a game, being able to put things together or take things apart, showing where certain things go, or being able to teach things like simple basics and all that kind of stuff for the younger kids and everything, it can go a long way. I reckon VR has a really good foundation for it. And it is definitely something that should be expanded upon massively. In terms of other ways that people can learn whilst in VR, games obviously, VRC being probably one of the bigger social VR games out there, just talking to people is one thing. I've learned many things off other people, being where they're from, and being how things work in other places, and learning new things, because obviously some people on this game are like bloody tech majors or something else or whatever, and just like to get off, just to relax. But you can learn things from other people, and obviously with our capabilities, being able to make different worlds and everything else is something else that we can do. And yeah, I reckon VR as a whole, it definitely has its foundations in the terms of where like education is concerned. The same thing with entertainment as well. Like as we touched upon, being able to make content for other people to can like watch and learn from, and everything else is something else we can do. Putting two and two together there, and being for us to obviously take pictures and everything else as well, and just have a blast really. And yeah, VR as a whole, it has a lot of potential, I would say, where like being able to expand upon in terms of like social education and entertainment is concerned. Just obviously having the actual proper technology to do it, shall I say. Compared to everything else, VR is still lacking behind a bit, and it still has a lot of room for improvement, I would say. Headsets are still bulky, they're still uncomfortable. But have to go to third parties to, the third parties just to even try and quell those options, shall we say. I have had to recently get a new head strap. I say recently, a little while back I had to get a new head strap for my Quest, because it was just the most uncomfortable thing on this planet. But as a whole, VR does have a lot of room for such things. In terms being in fact, obviously, like as I mentioned earlier, with what went down a couple of years ago, we all know what happened. Bad times, COVID, and everything else. It allowed us to use technology more for the terms of education and everything, and people being able to use VR to help learn in a way. But obviously, being able to expand upon that and help expand upon that, I reckon we could go like quite far with it.
Oh, definitely. Yes, I agree with you. Now, about you did mention avatars earlier. About the uses and picking up a private avatar as well as a public avatar. People might not understand what that actually means if you don't play VR. There are worlds here, but you can actually select an avatar and you kind of you take it there for free, more or less. And there's quite a few around. The problem with those avatars is that sometimes if the creator decides to cancel it or somebody misbehaves with that particular avatar, because everybody gets a copy of the original, basically, the avatar can disappear. And it's heartbreaking. It can be. I fell in love with one in particular when I started playing, and when it was gone, I cried real world tears. But so they are creators that sell the files, so you buy the avatar with a license and everything, and as you can see, you can just customize them. Yours is also customized as well to your tastes and preferences, and becomes a little bit of your identity. So that's what I wanted to ask you. What's your opinion? Do you think that the avatar that we pick as players, or anybody that they put on an avatar, does that tell something about your personality or your sort of traits? What's your opinion on that?
I reckon with such a thing, it's definitely a case-by-case scenario, because I know that with some people, so sort of touching more upon like how things work in a more like try to give a little bit of context episode, like sort of social side of things. Obviously, with most VRChat creators I've seen, especially with avatar creators anyway, from what I've seen, like proper full-on ones, they always make sort of similar avatars towards each other. And I've noticed that a lot of people that obviously, in the terms of more like relaxing or ball acting kind of that way, always wear these kinds of avatars, being like usually when I go to like a sort of social world and everything, we have mirror dwellers and everything else, self-explanatory. They look at the mirror, and all that kind of stuff, or they act in a certain way and everything else, you wouldn't normally tend to see unless there's a reason to it. I usually tend to see them in stuff like e-boy and ego avatars and everything else. People who are there to mostly cause trouble, not everyone, but mostly some. I usually tend to see them in like meme-ish kind of avatars and everything else. But I know that there are a few that do stand out as well from those kind of things, and people tend to, I guess, use avatars in terms to more portray what is the situation at hand and how they do feel. If they're, for example, more like in the terms of, because I know some avatars, they come with more comfy clothes, or they come with like pajamas or something, and all that kind of stuff, they would normally tend to wear them to sort of signify that maybe they're feeling more in like that kind of mood, that they're more like, okay, I'm kind of going to relax, or like, as some people do, they fall asleep in VR, and obviously will change into such things. Or if they're more feeling like the more comfy kind of mood and everything, they'll change to comfy clothes to signify that they're being relaxed, and all that, and that kind of stuff. I've had many people come up to me and ask me the same question of whether I'm a furry or not because of how my avatar looks. Because obviously when you do see a furry in VRChat and everything, that I would say 7 times out of 10 they're more likely a furry, and they usually got it in their bio to say so and everything else. But obviously I basically just use the avatar in terms of creativity and how I can sort of portray it in my pictures and everything else. It's just more for the terms of just like creativity and trying to be original and all that. And then after a while, it just sort of became me. So yeah, and I kind of like the looks of it as well. But the point is the fact that it's very 50-50. Some people follow by the stereotype of how the avatar shows, and I know some people tend to be different from it. So people wear like an e-boy avatar and everything, but they're usually the most chillest person on the planet. They don't really tend to hang around mirrors. They like to hang out in groups and everything else, have a bit of fun, say hi, see how things are, everything else, and just be a nice, normal person and all that. And some people just prefer to cause trouble and everything else. And after a while, you kind of click as to what avatar fits with what. But there are always people that diverge away, shall I say?
Mm-hmm. So, but a little bit more on that subject. That was like if you see someone with a certain avatar, you kind of read the book by its cover in a way. You kind of make assumptions. We all do. We are very visual creatures, so we can't help it. It's in our nature. But like, for example, on the other context is that you find that if you wear a particular avatar, people treat you differently, make assumptions about you. Have you come across that sort of scenario? I'm not sure. I have seen that you sometimes take photographs with different avatars, although this one is your main. I do have different ones, avatars as well. And but I like your opinion on that. Do you find that people that don't know you, they treat you a certain way depending on the avatar that you're wearing?
Both certainly, yes. I have noticed that people can treat me slightly differently depending on what avatar I wear. And it definitely leads to, like as you said, we are more of a visual-based lot. We do take everything for more face value than we do to actually ask a person as to who they are and what they're like. So, like, pretty much as the saying goes, to never judge a book by its cover, is to more give it a shot, give it a read, and see how it is for you, see if it's your thing. And I know that obviously people have judged me for the avatars that I wear. Like you said, I have taken pictures in different avatars before, mostly feminine avatars and everything, because a friend, I helped take pictures for a friend, and they gave me the avatars in return, so obviously it's, and they said I'm allowed to obviously take the pictures in them, so I thought, give it a shot, why not? But I have been in different social worlds before in those avatars and everything. People don't obviously automatically assume that as to who I am or anything else. Sometimes if I stay mute and I don't talk, they will just automatically assume I'm actually a female instead of being in this. Whereas, like I said before, if I'm in this, they automatically assume I'm a furry. So it's when you sort of see a person, like when you see a person in an avatar, you automatically, from what I've seen, people tend to automatically assume that's what you are. Not everyone's done it. I know that there's been a few cases where people have come up to me and said, "Hey, that's a cool avatar," and everything else, and they've really mentioned such things. I don't know, obviously, if they're just sort of quietly assuming, like thinking, "Oh, this person might be just a furry; they just have a cool avatar," or they just didn't really think that, and it's fair either way. But obviously, it's something that it's a bit of a problem, shall I say? Like, we do take everything for face value. We're all culprits for it, pretty much. Like, we automatically look at someone and go, "Oh, look at that person's probably causing a bit of trouble," or they're just there mirror dwelling, and we just see loads of like e-girls and e-boys and whatever, or I see some random meme-ish meme avatar running around and whatnot, and it's just causing noise and everything, So we will probably have been culprits of it, a few times, but I know for certain we are definitely face value. Like, we take everything for face value. We're definitely more visual based than we are actually giving it a try.
I agree with you in that respect. But I know that I've always told, even since we're little kids, don't judge a book by its cover. Don't make assumptions and all that. But if you think about it, I'm not saying that it's right to just judge someone without even getting to know them. But the point that you do make an assumption by how they look, it's our nature to keep us safe in a way. Because if you think about it, if you're in the wild and you look at a creature that has got really long teeth and really sharp claws, you do have to make assumptions that is a predator. So therefore, you need to be cautious. But when it comes to humans, you look at someone that looks like a predator or looks like someone that might be a little bit rougher on the edges, you prepare yourself for the worst, but you don't actually say that's definitely him. You sort of kind of, you guard yourself, you protect yourself, but then you give them the benefit of the doubt. And I think that's what is important. So to me, the saying, don't judge a book by its cover is wrong. It should, because when you go to the library to pick up a book, you do go and pick the ones with the pretty books. And the industry of creating book covers is big, because that's what makes ourselves a book. So it is important. When you go to a job interview, you don't go in your pajamas. You go in your best clothing. So, again, I really disagree with the statement of don't judge a book by its cover. What it should be said is give people the benefit of the doubt. That's a more sort of a realistic thing to do.
It's definitely case by case, to say the least, yeah. More depending on situations at hand. Obviously, like you said, with like women and everything else and all that kind of stuff, it's definitely like more of a being cautious if someone does look kind of dangerous or whatever. You do have to remain really cautious about such things. Whereas in terms of like obviously someone being really nice and everything, but you don't know because obviously how they look, then obviously we do take face value. We obviously do approach it with caution, but then realize that the fact obviously, this person's actually look quite nice. But obviously there are times where you do look at it and go, okay, this could be imminent danger here. Best to remain try to remain very cautious about this. Either slowly approach it or slowly walk away, kind of thing. And just so I get what you mean.
Yeah, because you can go the other way. I have met people in this game, in these beautiful little pussycat avatars. They're so cute and adorable, and they can be very toxic people, and until you get to know them, you don't realize. So it goes both ways. It definitely does. So be cautious, but at the same time, don't make that the only thing. Like you say, give people the benefit of the doubt, get to know them and don't judge them before you get a chance to know them. Yeah, for sure. Excellent. Stolas, it's been absolutely wonderful getting to know you. Get the answers. Has given us an insight of the way you think, and your work is beautiful. I love it. I really, really enjoy it, and it makes me want to wish and sort of join you on some of your travels. But some of the scary worlds, I'm not so sure. But maybe one day, maybe I'll be brave. And also the fact that you're in the UK,
always open.
I'm in Australia. The time difference is a bit of an issue, to sort of synchronize our times. But yeah, one day we'll see. It might happen.
There's always
Thank
time
you
for
so
everything.
much. Exactly. Yes. When there's a will, there's a way. Thank you so much for doing this with me.
Exactly. No worries.
Keep up the good work.
Thank you, and you too. It's been a pleasure.
Remember to subscribe today and turn on your notifications if you would like to join me on my next interview. Thank you for watching. See you next time.